Welcome to Story Dino, where fascinating stories are waiting for you to discover. Join us in the story right now. Amid the glamour of Beverly Hills' elite district, a dark conspiracy to destroy businessman Richard Carter is slowly unfolding. Only a little street vendor girl knows the truth, but can her warning change his fate? Stay until the end to uncover betrayal, greed, and the actual value of a person in this story. It was a beautiful morning, and the bright sunlight illuminated the upscale streets of Beverly Hills. In front of a grand mansion, a sleek black luxury car stood ready. Richard Carter, a successful real estate businessman, stepped out in a simple yet elegant outfit: a well-fitted white shirt, dark dress pants, and handcrafted leather shoes, exuding power without the need for flashy accessories. Beside him was his stunning wife, Elizabeth, who was dressed elegantly and always by his side for essential meetings. "You're leaving early today?" Elizabeth asked gently, her smile warm, but her eyes showed a hint of worry. "Yes, today's meeting is important. I have to go now," Richard replied, his tone urgent. The chauffeur stepped forward to open the car door for him. Just as Richard was about to get in, a frail little girl ran toward him from a distance. She wore an old t-shirt, her hair slightly messy, and a basket of goods in her hands. Her breath was heavy, but her eyes were filled with urgency. "Sir, someone tampered with your car's fuel system," she shouted, her voice trembling yet determined. Both Richard and Elizabeth turned to look at her in shock. Richard frowned, a mix of surprise and irritation on his face. "What are you talking about? Why are you yelling like this?" The girl, panting, babbled. "I overheard a woman and a man planning to damage your car's fuel system. If you drive too far, the car will break down or explode." The air around them fell silent for a few seconds. Elizabeth's face stiffened before she angrily snapped, "You little liar. Are you just trying to get money from us? Get out of here now." But the girl stood her ground. Her voice shook, but her determination remained strong. "No, I'm not lying. I slept near the parking lot last night and heard everything. They said you wouldn't come back and they would take everything from you." Richard looked at her, half believing, half doubting. Elizabeth grabbed his arm in frustration. "You're not listening to this nonsense, are you? This is ridiculous. Just get rid of her." The girl pleaded, her eyes desperate. "Sir, please check the car. If nothing's wrong, I'll leave immediately. But if there is, you'll know I'm telling the truth." Richard hesitated, glancing between the girl and Elizabeth. Elizabeth's face turned pale briefly, but she quickly regained her composure. "Don't waste your time on this nonsense," she urged. Still, doubt began to creep into Richard's mind. But with Elizabeth pressuring him and not wanting to be late, he decided to get in the car. As the vehicle began to move, the girl panicked and ran after it, shouting, "Sir, stop! Please get out! It's dangerous!" She waved her hands frantically, trying to keep up with the speeding car. Richard glanced out the window and saw her desperately chasing after them, her eyes full of fear. A brief moment of hesitation crossed his mind, but he shook it off, thinking it was just a coincidence. The luxury car continued down the main road. Everything seemed normal, until suddenly, strange rattling sounds came from the engine. The driver frowned, sensing something was wrong. Out of nowhere, thick black smoke rose from the back of the car, and the stench of burning fuel filled the air. The driver panicked. "Sir, something's wrong. I need to pull over immediately." Richard and the driver both gasped. The girl was telling the truth. Get out of the car now. The moment the car stopped, flames burst from the engine. Richard stood frozen, his heart pounding as he realized the girl had just saved his life. He might not have made it out alive if he had continued driving for a few more minutes. After the near-fatal car accident, Richard couldn't shake off his suspicion. How did a little street vendor girl know so much? He wouldn't have been standing there hadn't he warned him. His doubts turned into determination. He hired a team of private investigators to uncover the truth secretly. Within days, the results of the investigation left Richard in shock. The mastermind behind his assassination attempt was none other than his wife, Elizabeth, the woman he had trusted for over 20 years. And her accomplice? His brother, Jonathan Carter. But the truth was even more horrifying. Their goal wasn't just to steal his fortune, it was part of a much darker scheme. Elizabeth was not the devoted wife she appeared to be. She and her lover, a powerful underground casino boss, were running an illegal gambling empire across Las Vegas and Los Angeles. They used business status to launder money, move illicit funds, and manipulate markets. However, Richard had unknowingly signed a financial control document that tightened security over company funds, threatening their entire operation. That's when Elizabeth and her lover decided to eliminate him to regain complete control. As for Jonathan, our Richard's only brother, he had fallen deep into gambling addiction and drug use. He owed an enormous debt to underground syndicates and saw no other way out but to join Elizabeth in her plan, killing his brother to inherit his wealth and pay off his debts. Richard clenched his fists as the horrifying truth unfolded before him. The betrayal of those closest to him weighed heavy on his heart. But there was no time for sorrow. He had to act. Late one night, Elizabeth sat in the living room of the Carter mansion, swirling a glass of red wine in her hand. She had no idea that within hours, her world would crumble. The doors burst open. Richard stepped inside, his gaze icy cold. Behind him were police officers and private investigators. "Elizabeth," he said calmly yet firmly, "do you have anything to say before you are rearrested?" Elizabeth Shawn trembled, and her wine glass slipped from her fingers, shattering on the floor. Her eyes darted around in panic before she forced a smile. "What are you talking about? What do you think I did?" "You need to pretend anymore," one investigator said, dropping a thick folder onto the table. "I have evidence of your money laundering through the casino network. All the illegal transactions are linked to a secret account under your name. And more importantly, we have a recording of your plan to kill your husband." Elizabeth's face went pale. She turned to Richard, desperate. "Richard, you're going to let them do this to me, are you?" "Your wife." Richard let out a bitter smile. If it weren't for Anna, I'd be dead right now. Stop pretending to be innocent." Just then, Jonathan was dragged in by the police, his face haggard, his clothes disheveled. "Richard, she forced me. It was Elizabeth. She made me do it. I had no choice." Elizabeth glared at him. "You useless fool. Are you blaming me now?" Jonathan snapped. "Hut up. I would have been stupid enough to do this if you hadn't convinced me." Richard stood silently. The betrayal was apparent. There was nothing left to say. Elizabeth and Jonathan were taken away, leaving behind an empty house but a sense of relief. Months later, their shocking case made headlines. Those who once admired them were stunned by the truth. Meanwhile, Richard found someone genuinely worthy to carry on his legacy: Anna. The little street vendor girl had grown into a strong businesswoman, leading the Carter empire to even greater heights. But beyond business success, she transformed the company into a symbol of integrity and social responsibility. On the day Anna was awarded Entrepreneur of the Year, Richard sat in the front row, watching with pride. As she stepped onto the stage, the spotlight reflected in her determined eyes. Her voice was warm, yet powerful. "I've learned one thing. Family isn't just about blood. It's about those who believe in us, support us, and walk us through life. And true value is measured by wealth, but by how we use it to make a difference." The hall erupted in applause. Richard nodded. He had lost a false family, but he had gained a true daughter, one who inherited not just his business, but his philosophy on life. Many years ago, when he adopted the street vendor girl, Mr. Richard only wanted to give her a chance to change her life. But unexpectedly, she brought him something more precious: faith in kindness and courage. Under Anna's leadership, the Carter Group flourished in the real estate sector and expanded into many other industries, creating thousands of jobs. However, the most meaningful thing she did was not the profit figures, but the birth of a charity fund for street children, children with the same starting point as her. On the day of the honor, standing on stage, Anna was a successful businesswoman and a symbol of determination and compassion. She understood that success is not simply wealth, but the ability to use it to change the lives of others. Lesson learned: greed can destroy people, but kindness and courage can change fate. Actual value lies not in what we have, but in how we use it to create good in the world. Thank you for watching Story Dino channel to discover interesting stories. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next interesting stories. Please share with your friends to spread joy and knowledge together. Wish you a great day and see you in the next videos.